Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to Tim Burbage Reads. Today I'm going to do a quick book review for Rifles by Mark Urban. 6 years with Wellington's legendary sharpshooters. This is an exhilarating work of narrative history. Mark Urban traces the story of the 95th Rifles, toughest and deadliest sharpshooters in Wellington's army. So this is part of my mystery book challenge. It's on loan from my friend Craig before this, but found on your shelf. So this was my mystery book review for July. And I don't really know much about this period of history. I know of the phrase Napoleonic Wars. I know of the song Waterloo by ABBA. And I know Napoleon is in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Fantastic film. This covers 6 years. So 1809 to 1815. And the last battle that they are in this book is Waterloo. We learn a lot about kind of the making of the military regiment, how they marched, how they worked, what they did when they were injured and had to go to hospital. This is a campaign that starts off in Portugal and goes through Spain and ends up in France. How they work with other military units, the Portuguese, some Spanish, how they work with other British units, how these riflemen were different from ordinary soldiers. These were, first of all, they didn't wear red, they wore green, and they were like skirmishers. They didn't march up in blocks, just waiting to get shot by cannons. They kind of moved around and ducked and dodged and dived and dipped and dodged. And it kind of followed them through a period of marches and battles. And these guys were involved in a lot of battles. There was a bit at the end where they talk about how when they eventually, years and years later, received their medals, they were like marked with how many battles they'd had, and the majority of medals in that campaign had 1, 2, or 3, and most people in the Rifles would have had like 9 to 12. There are also some pictures in here. So there's pictures in the middle of the guns and different firing positions, and also some of the key people. And then they also had pictures of the maps. But I thought the maps were pretty rubbish. So here, on this page here, you need to try and find the letters Q, R, and T. Pretty hard to spot. Although the font is very small. So I found it took me a while to get used to reading about the battles, because the battles were written with a map in mind, and you don't have access to that map unless you go back and forward in the pictures, and then when you find the picture doesn't really help at all. So it took a while to get used to it, but after a while you get used to it and kind of go with the gist of what they're going for in terms of battles. You follow quite a large cast of soldiers here, of people from brigadier all the way down to private, and people go up and down the ranks quite a lot. You learn about kind of the unspoken rules of military life, involving pillaging and taking and stealing from the people that you're fighting against. And the 95th did like a drink and did like a fight, but they were also very good fighters. So I thought it was interesting to learn about. One thing, because it is non-fiction, it's what actually happened. In the middle, there's a big siege when they're storming a place called Badajoz, Badajoz, Badajoz. And yeah, it's basically in the middle of the book, and it's an incredibly brutal battle, because the 95th just go in and they just get shot at, and they fall in a ditch, and then another guy comes in and gets shot and falls in a ditch, and eventually the ditch fills up with bodies and they can kind of break through. It's incredibly brutal. Not many of the characters of the real people who are in the first half of the book make it through the battle. Very few. So you're then meeting a brand new group of characters, and you just don't care about them as much. But that's what happens. I feel like, and then the end, with the end being Waterloo, I could see why, because that's the famous battle. That's when Napoleon was vanquished. They didn't play a huge role in it. and they didn't cover themselves in glory. Let's just say that. But what you did see was that what I didn't know was that Napoleon had lost like the year before, 2 years before, and had been exiled to Elba, and they thought the war was won. And then 2 years later, Napoleon's back, and he's going again, and Waterloo's like the death and the final nail in the coffin. Like, it's kind of stopping the uprising of Napoleon the second time round. And none of them wanted to be there. They thought they'd already done their fighting. They thought they'd already done what they needed to do. Yeah, so there was a bit of military terminology in here. The only thing I didn't know was this hat. It's called a shako. There was no, I think there was a definition of that, but shako had already been used a few times, and the definition came in like page 250. So I'd already Googled it at that point, because it was like, oh, a man got shot in the shako. And I was like, I don't know that body part. No, it's their big hats. I think if you were a history fan, I think you'd like this. I think it's well written. It's well put together. It's obviously well researched. There's loads of stuff at the end. They also the ending also has a look at how the 95th Regiment are viewed afterwards. Why does Napoleonic history kind of keep coming round? Why is it fashionable? Why does it keep with us? How the way the 95th fought impacted the British military and other militaries, but also how some of the things that they really proposed were not taken up. And so in the First World War, you had people running in with just swords. They didn't even have guns at some points in the battles. So, yeah, I think it's 3 stars for me. I thought it was well put together. I enjoyed reading it, especially towards the end. It kind of, I think maybe my work has died down a little bit. It's not been so crazy over busy. So I've had more time and been able to concentrate and kind of read quite a lot of this towards the end. It's very small text. So that again makes it hard to read. I thought the change in cast was not, the writer couldn't do anything about that. It's not his fault that all those people died at Badajoz. But like the maps weren't very good. Yeah, so I think it's 3 stars. A good read. I'll recommend it to people who like history. My father-in-law quite likes history and reads a bit of military stuff. He mainly does World War II stuff, so maybe he might enjoy this. Would I say it's one of my best books of the year? Probably not. But would I say it was one of my worst books of the year? Also not. So 3 stars. Anyway, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Please subscribe. I'm over 100 subscribers now, so I'm really chuffed for that. And I'll see you in the next one. And get out of my house!